So we've been doing for a while now, every now and then, prompts in Discord for a daily question. What's your favorite book that starts with this letter? And going through, and it's had me wondering for a while what that would actually look like. And so I made the list. Hello and welcome to my channel. In this video, we are going to be going through exactly what I just said. My favorite books for each letter of the alphabet where I have one. And I have one for most, but this was actually kind of difficult to go through and specifically choose with everything. And I am going here. I think everything is a fantasy book, which makes sense for my favorites for the most part in general. But yeah, this was not the easiest thing to choose. So I went through and did this. And I will say that I tried to not just pick a bunch of different books that are all from my favorite series. So like you will see some repeats here because if I don't have that many options and there's a book I really like from a series, but I tried not to just do like all Wars of Light and Shadow, Wheel of Time, etc. and a bunch of that. So there are definitely some repeats, but if unless it's like one of my absolute favorites from a series, I tried to give a little bit more weight to something else with it. So that's sort of the grain of salt. This could look more lopsided toward my favorite series, but I tried to mix it up. But with no further ado, let's jump in and start with A, which A had to be Assassin's Quest by Robin Hobb, book 3 in the Farseer trilogy. It's not my favorite of the trilogy, but is definitely up there. And there's some letters had more competition than others, and I'm very much in the camp of I loved Assassin's Quest. It was still very much a 5-star book for me. I even enjoyed the part that people sometimes are hit or miss on, where it's kind of a weird pacing type of thing. So really, really fantastic book, and I thought fit here really, really well as well. For B, we have A Brightness Long Ago by Guy Gavriel Kay. I should mention too the articles like A and the I didn't include, so I'm just going with the next letter for proper alphabetization for this. But this is a more recent read, but was a pretty easy pick because I really love this. This is probably my second favorite K book, and so having this here, I think was a really, really easy choice as well. I love this. This is one of his newer ones and is in the style that's a little bit different from his older ones, which I also loved. But just the ideas exploring here, reminiscing, thinking about what impact choices and decisions had in your life and the changes that can go. It's just really, really good stuff. Some big time love of K for me. So then for C, we have Child of Flame by Kate Elliott. This being actually my favorite book out of Crown of Stars. This one is just, there's so much here. This is one of the longer ones, and it heavily focuses on my favorite character, and is just also the book that really tips the scales over in the incredible world building that the series does. You get a little bit more in each book, but this is the one that really just like shows how much is going on, and it's just such a fantastic book, and is I really enjoyed the whole series and everything, but that one is just my favorite because of what it does specifically. For D, maybe surprising some, but as I was looking through, I had to pick Dead House Gates by Stephen Erickson. This is my favorite out of Malazan, and I've talked many times, you may have heard me. I am one of the people that I was not a huge fan of the series. I didn't enjoy it as I was reading it, but I appreciate the heck out of it in retrospect. But Dead House Gates just remains, it has one of my favorite all-time plot lines in that book, and it's just, it's one I think about still regularly. I'll just find myself thinking about that. There were some other scenes and plot lines from the series that I still think about a lot, but especially that one it made sense being here on my spot for D. Now, the first, there will be multiple appearances, but the first one for the letter E, I had to go with Eye of the World. I couldn't find an ebook that it made sense to pick over The Eye of the World by Robert Jordan. It's the first book in the Wheel of Time. It is a book I've read many times, and every time I just start and I'm just absorbed in, and I know I'm going to have a fantastic time rereading the series every time I pick it up. So it's well deserved here to have that there. And then we have for F, our first repeat, to be followed soon, but we have Fool's Fate, a double F even by Robin Hobb. This is the third book in the Tawny Man trilogy. The Tawny Man trilogy being my favorite sub-series of Realm of the Elderlings, and just a phenomenal book. I especially, the first book and the third book are my favorites in those ones, and the first bit of the first book. But Fool's Fate is just, there's so much happening, and a lot of really, really great stuff. It's a great closing to both the trilogy and at the time the series, and it's just yeah, fantastic book. For G, I did have to go with The Great Hunt because I don't think I had a ton of G options, and also The Great Hunt is just a really really great book. I really enjoy The Great Hunt, and so yeah, I did warn you there was going to be some repeats, and there was another one. Then we move on to H, which is also a letter that I didn't actually have that many options. Now I will say. I'll give a shout out to The Hobbit because I know there's going to be the person that's mad at me for not mentioning The Hobbit. The Hobbit is a fantastic book. I do really enjoy the book. What I went with here, though, is The Hunt on the Island of Esmer by Justin A.W. Blair. This is one I've been really trying to yell at people and get people to check out because it's so good and was one of my big surprises last year. But this is a really fantastic book. More people should check out. It's got really, really great dark fantasy elements. It's got some like cosmic horror elements, has some of the military feel from like the Black Company and some elements, some of that the way you feel from Malazan as well. And it's just a lot of these really, really great books you can see the inspirations for, but done in a unique and very engaging way. And yeah, here's another reminder to check it out. I is another one with I don't think I had a ton, and I didn't really list a lot of like honorable mentions here, so maybe some of them I'm forgetting. But for I went with The Ill Earth War by Stephen R. Donaldson. This one is the third book is my favorite in the trilogy, and the second trilogy also was really fantastic as well. But the way the letters shaped out, I think this is the only one that's actually in here for it. But it was a hard one, so it fit in really well. And I'm a big fan of the Thomas Covenant, the first two trilogies. Really fantastic stuff. It's been nice seeing some more people read those lately, but well deserved here. Jade was also pretty easy because while I wasn't the biggest fan of the series as a whole, I did really really enjoy Jade Legacy. This book like made me for a little while. I think I had like some recency bias, and it made me think I loved the whole series more than I did. Really, it just the last book did so much stuff that I loved, but it's one too like I might reread at some point, but I think I'm gonna have a similar experience where I don't like the first two books a whole lot, but I really enjoy the third. So who knows? Maybe I'll just reread the third, and we'll do that. That could be a thing that can happen. And I really really mad about this because as I was getting books out, this one fell over, and I highly damaged the dust jacket for my first edition Knife of Dreams here, which is very upsetting. So I'm gonna have to get a new copy of this now. But this is the last Wheel of Time book that's in here because Knife of Dreams is my favorite Wheel of Time book. So I had to pick this one for K, and there was just no way around it because it needed to be that for K. But yeah, I'm really upset that that dust jacket ripped because yeah, not happy. Anyway, going on for L, and L is I think the only other letter I'm going to do honorable mentions for because this was probably the hardest letter because there's so many things I want to talk about. So the first thing I will say is I have this copy of the Long Price Quartet in one volume, and it is called the Long Price Quartet. So if you count this as one book, this very likely needs to be in the conversation because this is one of my all-time favorite series as a whole. Although I don't think necessarily any of the individual books would be, so it really is only because it's in one volume, so you can debate on whether that counts. And I also found I had to mention Lord of a Shattered Land by Howard Andrew Jones because this is a book that I absolutely love. It is fantastic. It's all the old school sword and sorcery stuff, but with more of a modern writing style, and it just worked so well for me, and I absolutely loved it. However, I have to give it to The Lion's Valrasan, considering this is one of my all-time favorite books, and it's my favorite of K that I've read so far. It's the first one I read, and it's remained my favorite. Even though L, there was a lot of competition, this is one of the hardest letters to pick. I feel pretty definitively that's where it needs to be. All right, next up we have M, which is another one that I felt pretty confident going with. Magician by Raymond E. Feist. I loved this book. I did like the original trilogy. I thought was good. The next two books though were nowhere near as good to me as Magician was. It is split into two parts, but just as a whole was a really fantastic book. Just classic fantasy goodness with some interesting twists and a lot of stuff in there too. So definitely a great pick there as well. And then for N, had to go with The Navigator's Children by Tad Williams. This is the last book in the Last King of Austin Ard series, which is the sequel series to Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn. The World of Austin Ard in general is one of my favorites. Just Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn on its own was already extremely high on my favorites list, and I loved The Last King of Austin Ard, so that just bumped the whole thing up even more. Definitely deserves to be here on the list. It was a really great book in general, but just as the closing to a series and building off of what stuff that was set up and started in the first series and all of the lore in the world, just top notch. So for O, actually, we happened to the day I was filming this, and I didn't end up changing my list, but we got to the O in the Discord. But let me know if you have O suggestions, because my answer still at this time is Ocean at the End of the Lane by Neil Gaiman. It's one of the only Gaiman books I still have. I love the book despite all the stuff, but I'd love to have a better answer for this. So if you have any O options, let me know. P, moving on, we have Peril's Gate by Janie Wirtz. This is sort of the midpoint of the series, and sometimes you get the midpoint of a series and it's like a weak book, and that could not be further from the truth here. Peril's Gate is a huge book, but it's just there's so much that happens, and it just does what Janie Wirtz does so well with building off of what's happened in the past books, recontextualizing some of it, and just setting up all kinds of new stuff to be going on. That book, despite being a behemoth, was just phenomenal. It was a very, very easy pick for the letter P. And then Q, surprisingly, actually was not a difficult letter, because very quickly I was able to go with Quest for Lost Heroes by David Gemmell. I really need to find a hardcover of this. Gemmell books, especially the old Janine books, are not the easiest to track down in those, which is why I'm so happy I got this copy of Legend, which, yes, is another thing that absolutely could have been in contention for the L's. Why is L such a popular thing? I think it may be, if you're an author here, you got to think when you're writing your books, use the letters that don't have a lot of books in them, because we'll get to too, where it's always hard with the last bits. But then when people make videos or lists like this, you'll have a way better chance of being included, getting some attention, because the letters that just don't have that many options. So there you go. Don't write in one of the really the popular letters. Do your titles differently. I don't know. I'd be curious if that would actually work or not, but who knows? People used to do that with like band names and author names, but that's neither here nor there. Going on to the letter R, and so our second author that has 3 appearances here, but R had to be Royal Assassin, because I love this book. This is my favorite out of Farseer, and is one of my favorites in the series in general. I think I did make a ranking one time, and I don't actually remember where everything landed, but I feel pretty confident Royal Assassin is up there, because gosh, it's such a great book. That's the book where I fell in love with the series. Realized after the first book I enjoyed but wasn't fully sold. I just really fell in love and knew it was going to be a favorite series, and it was. And it's funny that I say that, because that's also why I picked the book I did for S, which is Ships of Merrier. Now, this is the hardcover one that also has its Ships and Warhost in one volume. Now, I could have easily picked Song of the Mysteries, the last book in the Wars of Light and Shadow. This is book 2 or book 2 and 3, depending on how you count it. But this, again, I picked this one because when I'm thinking of my favorite books, even though Song of the Mysteries is, I feel like it's a stronger book because it's just a phenomenal ending to the series, and it's hard to not pick the last book in a series. But this is the book, again, like I said with the Hobbit book, where I really fell in love. I enjoyed Curse of the Mist Wraith a lot. I liked it, but I wasn't fully sold and fully there. I was interested, but then this is the book where I just fell in love and really realized how special this series was and how much I was going to love the whole thing. And I never looked back, and I loved pretty much every minute of it with the series, and it became a new favorite. And so yeah, that was the choice here. And then, since we had to have more Tad Williams in here too, for T, we have 2 Green Angel Tower. I'm counting this as a T because it's not A or the, so there you have it. We're counting it. But honestly, because Dragonbone Chair would have been a really big contender for D, so I figured, though, this worked with having to Green Angel Tower here for T, because that is also just, I love the Dragonbone Chair. 2 Green Angel Tower, though, is, again, despite being huge, it's just such a good book. There was just so much great stuff. And one of those books that it's massive, but I just felt myself getting through it very, very easily. So it's just a heck of a good time. Now, U and V I find really funny because it's the same author. And V is because this was like an actually really easy pick for V. U is partially because I don't really have, I think, any other U options. I think this was my only U option. So again, authors, you got to write the letters that aren't super common, and you'll get mentioned more. So this is I think, the only U book that I've read. Now, granted, I have a U book by Kate Elliott. I have a U book by Guy Gavriel Kay, and a couple of others, I think, but I've not read them yet. And so that's where it is. So double shout out to Derek Bailey. You get Umbrage, which is, funnily enough, probably my least favorite thing I've read from him, and Voidwalker Collection, which is my favorite thing I've read from him. So double Derek Bailey, and I still liked Umbrage. This was less my thing. This was a YA story around a teenager in high school who sees visions, which was just never really my thing, but I still enjoyed. The Voidwalker Collection, though, I've talked about. This is one of my like earliest, just really big self pub successes with review copies that were sent to me as well. Is such just interesting. It's 8 novellas all tied together into this. And just this speculative fiction exploring a lot of ideas, and with this character that goes into a dream world, and it's just something that's really really stuck with me. So it's just funny that it ended up that way with the double mention, going from there. So here's where we finally get to where it gets hard, because W was super super easy. So I guess we're not quite to where it gets hard. W was The Warrior Prophet. Now W has a surprising amount of competition, actually, funnily enough. I had a fair bit of options for some of these ones. And W, there were others, but The Warrior Prophet, which is book 2 of the Prince of Nothing trilogy, by R. Scott Baker, and it is one of the best books I've ever read, and it definitely was like a favorite. It's my favorite of the trilogy by a lot. I'm so excited to continue, because I've heard that one of the books in the next part, the Aspect Emperor, is it's like this but even better. So I can't wait to get to there. But yeah, The Warrior Prophet it's still one of my favorite books I read this year, and it's just like up there on the list of just favorites. So really easy pick. But I do not have an answer for X, Y, and Z. I don't know that I've actually read books that fit here, or if I do, there's nothing that I read and liked enough that I can remember. So this is again where, and I did an alphabet thing where it was more like a scavenger hunt, and I wasn't picking favorites, but this is where I need to find some more books. Now I looked up. There is a collection. There's apparently it's several. It's like a series of short stories collected called Xanadu, which has a bunch of authors in it. So I think I'm gonna have to try and track down a copy of that to be my X book. Now, Y, I do own a Y book, which is Isabel by Guy Gavriel Kay. So I feel like, because it's a K book, I don't think that's supposed to be one of the better ones, but it's a K book. That'll probably be a pretty easy Y pick. But I don't have any Z books. And I was trying to look around and find some Z books, but let me know, because I do, if you've got, this is the X, Y, and Z, I feel like are the hardest ones, where people always struggle to find books. I thought about trying to say Area X as an X book, but that doesn't really count. So let me know if you've got suggestions there, because I definitely could use some. But that's where we end up there with these ones. So those are my favorite books by letter. I did, after I made the list, I agonized over it for a little bit, but then I'm like, I'm just going to make it, and I'm going to go with it, and I'm not going to keep thinking about it, because I'm sure there were other ones where I'm like, oh no, that book, that goes here, but it's just for fun, and I think it was kind of interesting to go through and look specifically by letter, because it gets you some interesting picks depending on what's there and depending on what letters have the competition. So let me know. Feel free to let me know your listing in the comments, or if you got any like big highlights, or if you got really good O or X, Y, and Z books, definitely let me know down in the comments there. I would love to hear from you. Make sure to give the video a like if you enjoyed it. Check the links in the description, as always, for the Patreon if you want to support what I do, as well as the Wizard of the Enclave Discord if you want to chat books, whether you're any of these books, other books with you, anything at all. It's a lot of fun. I would love to have you. And of course, if you enjoy my content, make sure to subscribe.